Det här är Ingenjörspodden, en podcast från Sveriges Ingenjörer.
Dear fellow engineers, dear colleagues at Vis Honorem, Ångström Laboratory, Uppsala University, I'm dedicating this podcast to my children. They are the one and loving reason for my ever-burning passion for trying to make this world a better place. Ebba Lovisa, the first ribbing to be born in the 23rd generation of the Österby line of my old family. Gustav Erik Robert Maxwell, named after his great-great-grandfather, both his grandfathers, and the father of the famous Maxwell equations. And last, but definitely not least, Elise Maria, my sweet sunshine, only 3 years of age. All of thee I love. I fight for your future, and for you I will win. Since Ebba is in Ohio, USA, as an exchange student at Tiffin Columbian High School, and since my colleagues come from all over the world, and since I've seen myself as a global peace worker all the time since my own exchange year 1980 to 81 in Akron, Ohio, I will give you my story in English. For all of my friends, many of them from countries far away, and for my dear family, I hope you take the time to listen to my story, and when you do, you feel my love and my gratitude to you all. Dear friends, dear colleagues, dear family and children, what I'm about to tell you is not a nice story. It's nevertheless true. I was there. I experienced it. It changed my life. It was around Christmas 1993 that we were invited to celebrate New Year's, or Silvestre as they call it in Latin American countries, way out in the jungle in the Ecuadorian part of the Amazonas. At the time, me and my ex-wife Åsa was staying in Quito at the home of a friend, Elisabeth Bergqvist, Bettan, a Swedish volunteer working as a journalist at CONAI, that's the NGO for the indigenous people of Ecuador. Christina, also a Swedish volunteer, working as a nurse far out east in the jungle, invited us and, of course, we gladly accepted the invitation. We had absolutely no idea of what would happen, and the very clear message from Bettan's colleagues, do not admit to anyone that you are a journalist, didn't put us off the least. We might have been a bit puzzled, that's all, but up on the bus to Ambato we stepped, eager to see the Amazonas. In Ambato we changed buses and got on the bus traveling more or less straight east towards Puyo. After a while the bus was stopped at a roadblock, a small wooden pole across the road manned by a policeman in blue uniform. He was armed, but only with a revolver tucked securely in a black leather holster. He did not draw his gun on us. The bus stopped and all passengers had to disembark and show their papers. The 3 gringos, me, Bettan and Åsa, had to show our passports. Then we had to fill in a paper, a questionnaire asking for passport number, place and date of birth, home address, education, occupation, reason for travel. There were 3 boxes to choose from: tourist, business and journalist. We remembered the warning Bettan's colleagues had given us. Do not admit to anyone that you are a journalist. Well, for Åsa and me that was not a problem. We were just backpacking around the world. We were on our honey year, actually, as newlyweds. But for Bettan it meant she had to lie and then enforce that lie with her signature. We all had to sign our names at the end of the document. With documents duly signed, we were allowed back on the bus. The wooden bar was raised and we started eastward again. The bus bumped on the dirt road, Ruta Nacional 25, for about an hour and then another roadblock. This time, though, not with a nice policeman, but with a terrifying Rambo-like muscular guy in green military outfit. tight camouflage t-shirt, combat boots and a machine gun. He pointed it at the bus and we stopped. All had to disembark and the same procedure was repeated. But this time at gunpoint. Show your passports, fill in the questionnaire, sign your name and promise that you are not a journalist. Then we boarded and the bus bumped on eastwardly. Less than an hour later we were stopped again. The roadblock this time was not only a wooden bar across the road. It was part of a small guardhouse with sandbags protecting it from grenade shellings, as were all other buildings in the village. Sandbags tucked on top of each other up to the level of the windows. I was the first one off the bus. When I put my feet on the ground, I looked up and stared straight into the muzzle of a metal black heavy machine gun aiming right between my eyes. It reached out a good half-yard from a bunker, a concrete defense bunker covering the road leading into the village. Everywhere there were military personnel in green combat attire and M16 automatic carbines slung over their shoulders. The first person approaching me wore a full uniform with golden tabs. The uniform cap was impeccably green and golden. For the first time in my life I saw a bazooka. It was mounted on a jeep parked next to the guardhouse. Undoubtedly, I just entered a war zone for the first time in my 25-year-old life. This was how war looks like. This was how war smells like. This was war. Even without ever being at war, Sweden has a history of over 200 years of peace. I knew this was not practice, it was not a drill. People were on red alert. This was for real. This was the Amazonian jungle. This was the village of... Yes. What was the name of this little village far out east in the Ecuador? It starts with an S. While you think about what name this village holds, I will tell you what happened. The second letter is H. The same procedure, passports up front, questionnaires filled out and signed with our signatures, promising we were not journalists. The third letter is E, S-H-E. The two ending letters are both L. S-H-E-L-L spells shell. Yes, shell. Of course, this little Amazonian village once had an Indian name. But the indigenous people of the region, the indígenas, no longer had any rule over their own native land. And the stories we subsequently were told on how the transnational oil companies had treated the Indians here and elsewhere in the Amazonas made me sick, nauseated, disgusted. And that was the reason for not allowing journalists into the area. Shell didn't like the bad PR that some earlier Western journalists had created with their articles in big Western magazines and newspapers. As if this is not sickening enough, the story continues. We celebrated Sylvester with Christina and returned to Quito with Bettan, since we had already stayed over a month as house guests in her apartment. It was time to hit the road again. We traveled south towards Peru. After a few days and an almost paradisical experience in the valley of Vilcabamba, we took the bus into Peru. In the first city we entered, south of the border, we went into a bar. The bar had 3 large TV screens hanging over the counter. They all showed the latest news of the war. Yes, the war. The border conflict between Ecuador and Peru had cost 25 human lives. The conflict was, of course, concerning a new find of the black gold, our society's prime drug, oil. At the time, I had a Shell card at home. It gave me a discount of 25 öre per liter petrol. 25 öre. And right then it struck me, 25 people had just lost their lives so that I could continue driving my fossil car in Stockholm some 10,000 kilometers away. I felt sick. I felt so cheap, so dirty, so inhumane. But my grief was not overwhelming. It was clarifying, sobering, and energizing. I decided then and there to get an electric vehicle. It took me a few years, but in January 97 I did buy my first EV. Nota bene. At the time I couldn't even spell the words climate change or greenhouse gases. I bought my EV to stay clear of the dirty business of oil. That's why I bought my first EV, not for environmental reasons. I still drive my EV. I still see myself as a peace driver. You should try it. You'll love it. Drive clean, drive green, drive your electric vehicle on pure renewable energy. Since I work with wave energy, I say climate save, ride your EV on a wave. For my colleagues working with photovoltaic power, I suggest stop the melting Arctic polar, ride your EV on pure solar. As we enter into the discussion of renewable energy as one of the positive and sustainable job-creating solutions to the threats posed on society from climate change, I want to make one thing totally clear. Green power does exist, and it does not, I repeat, does not mix with that fossil, dirty, poisonous power produced from coal. It's a misunderstanding supported by the large power companies. They have enormous investments in coal and other form of fossil power, so the misunderstanding that, quote, all power mixes on the grid, unquote, is beneficial to them. However, it is a misunderstanding. Only power not submitted to a third-party audit mixes. Power submitted to an audit, for example green power, such as the Swedish Good Environmental Choice Electricity, Bra Miljöval, does not mix with the unaudited power, which I usually call ugly power, ful el. All clients of a power company, all persons paying a power bill, have a choice, a real de facto choice, of what electricity they receive in their sockets at home. If you want ugly power, don't make an active choice. But if you do not want coal power coming into your home, don't buy it. When you decide you don't want any coal power in your house, you are left with a choice. Green power or environmentally product declarated EPD specified nuclear power. Which power you choose is your free choice, but I would like to pose a question to you. A question no one in the nuclear industry has ever given me an answer to. It's a question I put to the panel in Tsuruga the 6th of June 2008 when I was one of the speakers at the TIEF 6, Tsuruga International Energy Forum number 6. Is it at all possible to wage a war over wind? Who do you invade to control the ocean's waves? Who do you shoot to steal their sun? The only proliferation from renewable energy is the proliferation of peace. In only 1 hour, this planet receives as much energy from the sun as the total global use of energy during 1 year. 1 hour equals 1 year. Why then? Why do you promote sources of energy that can be fought wars over? I got no answer to my question. Instead, there was a dead silence in the room for over 30 seconds. Dead quiet. 300 people in the audience. Then the chairman, a Japanese professor from the University of Tokyo, asked me, "Do you want an answer to that question?" No one else has given me an answer when I asked the Professor Arne Håkansson here at Applied Nuclear Science in Uppsala. He didn't reply either. Maybe you have an answer to me. You can see my question in PowerPoint format here at Sveriges Ingenjörers website. Just click the link. To Tsuruga I took the train. Stockholm to Tsuruga took 12 nights on ocean and rail, with 1 extra night in Vladivostok to do some sightseeing. A wonderful experience. One of my favorite one-liners is, "Use your brain, go by train." And with a warm, loving hug, I thank Ebba for her own personal paraphrase, "Lose your brain, go by plane." And with a warm, loving hug to Gustav, I say that our trip to Paris to see Paris Saint-Germain beat Lorient 4-0 was a wonderful trip. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We just arrived in Stockholm this morning with night train from Malmö, and I'm already planning a trip to Aurich to visit the world's largest wind turbine, the Enercon E126, giving a full 7,580 kilowatts at good winds. We will also visit the Enercon production plant there. This visit I plan to do together with friends in Ingenjörer för miljön. To keep you updated, please join our Facebook page, Ingenjörer för miljön. I grabbed the opportunity here to send a big thank you to my relative Ebba Dolman and to her son Michael Dean Dolman. Thank you for opening your home for a couple of ribbings on the road. You're more than welcome to Knivsta so I can repay your kind hospitality. Thank you. I will keep fighting for my children, and I will never ever let anyone take any one of them away from me. I think my burning passion for creating a sustainable future for my children is a sound and healthy fatherly inner drive. But instead of sound and healthy, I have been accused of being mentally diseased because of my burning passion. It was a very discomforting feeling being accused of mental illness just because I want a better world for my children. Personally, I think it's rather insane not to act in the best interests of one's children. What do you think? What are you doing about climate change? Don't do it for yourself, do it for your children. We didn't inherit this planet from our ancestors. We're only borrowing it from our children. Act now. Stop postponing. Stop finding excuses. Start thinking of how you will face your children when they ask you, "Father, Mother, how could you let this happen?"
Du har lyssnat på Ingenjörspodden, en podcast från Sveriges Ingenjörer.